If you're looking for an iFit enabled bike, then the Proform Studio Bike Pro 22 is a bit of a mouthful, and the NordicTrack S22i are both fantastic choices. In fact, they might just be the pick of the range from both companies. However, this bike here, the S22i, can be twice as much to buy than this bike here, the Proform Studio 22. But is the more expensive NordicTrack bike twice as good as the other bike? Or is the more wallet-friendly Proform Studio Series bike a better choice for most people? We need a head-to-head. Let's get cracking. So firstly, I'm going to breeze through the areas where these bikes are both the same. And the first is the software they run. They both run iFit software, which is the best I've ever used. It really is 10 out of 10 when it comes to the immersive nature of the workouts. It's a combination of great instructors along with some amazing scenery around the world. You could be road riding in Australia, Thailand, mountain biking in the snow. They also have class rides, and as you can see here, it's the same on both of these machines. Exactly the same software, exactly the same choice of workout and instructors, and visually, at least, exactly the same experience. And it's these outdoor scenic fitness rides like this one and this one, which was one of the main reasons why I switched from Peloton bikes and treads to iFit enabled devices. Both machines have Smart Adjust, and that means as the intensity of the ride changes, so does the difficulty of the workout, and you can turn that on and off here for both bikes. And you can see here on the NordicTrack, we've got the magnetic resistance, and the further that goes down towards the flywheel, the harder it gets. It's less glamorous on the Proform. You can see it's under there. That one looks a little bit more like I've made it, but that gets closer to the wheel and then makes it harder for that flywheel to spin. And with this Smart Adjust technology, it means that any ride is open to you. So if you're a beginner and you jump onto an advanced ride, which would be difficult for you to do, the Smart Adjust, you can pull the difficulty of the ride back, and that will adjust the rest of the ride to your current fitness level. Conversely, if you're an advanced rider and you jump on a beginner ride, you can turn the resistance up. It will carry that resistance through the workout, making a beginner ride even harder for you. So there are 17,000 workouts on the iFit platform. You're not just stuck in your lane. Regardless, if you want to go to Thailand and cycle there, but it's outside of your skill sets, you can still go and you can still have a great workout. In addition to that, both screens rotate for off-the-bike workouts, and the S22i is a little bit stiffer than the Proform. But if you're off the bike, you can spin the screen round, and you can adjust the screen on the S22i to bring it level if you're working out off the bike. The next thing I want to talk about, and the thing that surprised me most, are the screens. So I've got 3 pieces of equipment in here. I'll show you the 22-inch screens I've got on them. Let's start with the Proform bike. Now, if we come close to the screen, you can see it says Proform there. What you might not be able to see is this iFit logo here is just beneath the screen. It's kind of baked in, but I don't know if I'll be able to show you. Oh, you can just see that that's actually stuck on. And look at the quality of this screen, and now look at the quality of this screen. I mean, can you tell the difference? Let me just straighten this one up so it comes around a bit. So if we come into this iFit logo on here, again, that's stuck under, and you might just be able to see that that's stuck on there. And it has a different surround. So this top part here is different to this, and I'll come in close and you should be able to see that the monitor end's there, and then the speaker bar is underneath. Can you tell the difference between those two screens? Let's have a look at the circa £3,000 NordicTrack 2450. Now, once again, this is a 22-inch screen, and I'll just show you there that the screen is actually inside this surround, the speaker system, so that's why it looks different. Baked in iFit logo, stuck on. And if I look at the responsiveness of this screen and the colors, and as a user, the way it acts, and I compare it to this bike, which is about a third of the price, I'm not saying they're the same screen, but I genuinely cannot tell the difference in the quality. So let's look at the touch points, and I'm going to start with an area. I'm going to start with the handlebars, and this is an area where I think the Proform potentially outperforms the NordicTrack. Now, the NordicTrack handlebars are slightly thicker and very slightly more plush feeling, and they have the controls here. You've got your incline and decline controls here, and your resistance controls, but you have less places to hold on to. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hand positions. Now on the Proform, this is slightly thinner. It does feel just as good, but it's just a thinner handlebar, and to be honest, they're just different. Neither one is better than the other one, but you have a lot more handholds. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially 5 there, 6 and 7. So a lot more places to put your hands than the NordicTrack. The next area is the pedals. So I think a lot of riders will just swap their pedals out like I've done, but on the Proform bike, these are the pedals. You've got a cage one side and you've got a flat pedal on the other. On the S22i, I don't know where my pedals are for the S22i, but you've got on this side, you've got the cage, and then you've got an SPD clip. Now, the advantage of this is if you're a multi-user household, you haven't got to buy different shoes for different people. So if you've got casual riders in your family or the people using your bike, then this system works really well. You just clip in there, or if they hate the clips, they can just ride old school. If you're the main user, I would say clip in. You can either change the pedals on your current bike, they're just normal pedals, and get yourself some cycling shoes. These are Nike Super Reps, really cool to use, really give you good flexibility on your feet, and go half a size to one size heavier, higher than you would normally go. The reason being is it gives you a much better sensation of not only pushing down on the pedal, but you're also pulling up on the pedal a lot easier because you're clipped in. It's not necessary. If you're a casual user, just stick with the normal pedals. And if you're thinking about buying either the Proform bike or the NordicTrack bike, I'll put a link in the description. That will take you to the best price on the relevant website, and it also helps support the channel, which is greatly appreciated because it helps me make more videos like this one. Let's start to look at the differences. And one of the biggest differences is the way that you adjust the seat height and also the handlebars. On the NordicTrack bike, you've got this system here, which works really, really well. It's very easy to use. If you need to adjust the handlebar height or also the seat as well, you can adjust the seat forward and back as well with this one here. So this one's a little bit tight. The Proform is a different story. So this will only be relevant if you've got a multi-user household, because you use these, I've done that too tight as well. I don't know my own strength. You use these to adjust it. So you turn that and then it's in the wrong place and then you lock it back into place. These are not as nice to use. So if you're having to adjust the bike every time you get on it because someone else uses it as well, I think that might be a consideration for you, because this is a much better system. Next is max rider weight. So the Proform bike has a max rider weight of 250 pounds, whereas if you're wanting to go for the NordicTrack, this bike has a max rider weight of 350 pounds. Back to winning ways, it's with the water bottle placement on the excuse us taking my water bottle, but it's just the way it is. The Proform has the water bottle holder here, which is, it doesn't feel really robust, but it does work really, really well. It's a really good place for a water bottle. Now the NordicTrack, although it can take two water bottles, the placement is here. So you might think that's a pretty good place, especially because you can put 2 water bottles there. But on more than one occasion, I've got a bit excited out of the saddle and ended up shooting a water bottle across the gym. And this is fine when they've got a lid on, but I had one without a lid on and I've got Ribena all up the wall. We've talked about the auto resistance of both bikes, but only the NordicTrack has auto incline and auto decline. Now, if you go up a hill on the workout, the resistance will get tougher on this bike. So you will get the sensation of things getting more difficult uphill and easier downhill, but the bike won't move, it won't pivot backwards or forwards. But the NordicTrack will really add to the experience, and I mean it really does make a difference. It can go down to -10, so that will take the decline all the way down to -10. And if you're going uphill, it will take the incline all the way up to +20. And initially, I thought this might be a bit of a gimmick, but when you're actually doing a ride, it does make a big difference. And you can see +20 is quite a different position to -10. It's a brilliant feature. And I've got my resistance here set to 12, which is 50% resistance. And I want you to watch this because when I go downhill, it should move that resistor away from the flywheel. So even though my resistance hasn't changed, it's got easier. And it should bring the magnet closer to the flywheel. Even at level 12, now I'm going uphill, or I can, I can really feel it. Oh, I'm gonna have to stand up. So uphill at the same resistance is a lot harder because the magnet is close to the flywheel. Now, because of the auto follow feature, you barely touch the controls. It's pretty much a hands-off experience, but you've got the controls here and here if you need them, if you want to make adjustments, or you can put them on the screen. So you can just have the controls on the screen, and then there they are if you prefer to use them on the screen instead of on the handlebars here. With the Proform, you haven't got the controls on the handlebars, but they are on the screen here. I actually found this quite easy to get used to. I thought I would find it a bit of inconvenient, but it really wasn't. Next is the seat. So the NordicTrack has a firm seat, but once you get used to it, it doesn't take very long. It's a really good quality seat and very good for longer rides. This is a different story for this seat on this Proform. It is terrible. Now, it doesn't look that much different, but I just knew immediately I wasn't going to get on with this seat. And you can either change the seat, it's a normal bike seat there. You can see if you get used to it, or just spend $20 on a really good quality gel seat, ideally one that straps under here as well, for added stability, and that will solve all of your problems. The Proform doesn't have a fan, which might be a consideration for you, and probably less of a consideration is the speaker placement. On the Proform, the speakers are at the back here. Which doesn't sound anywhere near as good as the NordicTrack, which has the speakers on the front. They're better quality and they're facing you. I generally wear headphones, so it doesn't make any difference to me. And then the fan here on the NordicTrack bike is absolutely excellent. You've got 3 settings. You've got 1, 2, 3, and then my favorite setting is auto. And that just links to the speed of your pedaling. So the faster you pedal, the more you're going to get out of that fan. Very clever. One area where these bikes do differ is with the resistance profiles. So I would say that the resistance setup on this is more for a beginner to a good intermediate. The reason being is it doesn't quite have the resistance that the NordicTrack has. So I'm on level 1 now. Let's go to level 12, which is at 50%. And although I can hear the motor changing and it is harder, at 50%, it still feels very much like a flat, smooth road. And if I go up to full resistance, which is 24, oh yeah, I mean, so I wouldn't want to stay here very long. It is difficult, but I could probably stay here for a few minutes. If I got out of the saddle, perhaps even longer. I am feeling it, but it's not heavy resistance on max resistance. On the NordicTrack, number 1 resistance does feel fairly similar. If I go to 12, which is halfway through the resistance, I can feel it coming on. I mean, it doesn't feel that much difference to the Proform at this point, but when I go to max resistance, yeah, I can still turn the pedals, but yeah, I'm here for a few seconds rather than a few minutes at max resistance. If I get out, I can maintain it longer, but I can feel myself beating up already. Both bikes come with a set of weights, which is a nice feature actually. I do find the placement of this kind of better in that it keeps the handlebar area free. But if I'm seated and I'm doing a really hard pedaling, I can sometimes just touch the dumbbells here on the frame with my legs slightly. The NordicTrack doesn't have the weights there, it has the weights here. And you're thinking, Steve, where are the weights? And I don't know either. because I don't use them. But you've got a lovely big phone holder here, whereas on the Proform, I find that my phone does actually balance there quite nicely, but it's not secure. And where the weights would sit here. You can store other things like your headphones, your inhaler if you have one, and also your keys. So quite a really good storage tray. I'm not sure that's a great location for the weights when they're on there. So in conclusion, I suspect you know already which bike is for you. They're both fantastic bikes. I think the Proform certainly lends more to beginner to seasoned intermediates, where the NordicTrack will take you all the way from beginner up to advanced riding. It's also more feature rich, as you can see, but that does come at a cost. And this bike, as we mentioned, can be nearly twice the price of this bike. One thing I would say, and this is because I've learned from experience, you should get the bike you think is right for you. The reason I've said that is because in the past, I've bought something that perhaps wasn't right for me. I've then had to sell it at a loss to buy the thing that I should have bought in the first place, if that makes sense. I'm not leaning towards a NordicTrack more than the Proform. The NordicTrack would certainly be my choice because I like the extra features. And if you want to watch my full review of this bike, you can see that here, and you can see my full review of this bike, which I also think is excellent, right here. As I mentioned, I'll put a link in the description, which will take you to the best price on both websites for these bikes. And it also helps support the channel, which is greatly appreciated. And until next time, see you soon.